Meeting for January 4th of the new year of 2022. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jenny, if you take the roll.
Councilmember Thorson?
Here.
Councilmember Peterson? Here. Councilmember Wong?
Here.
Councilmember Cole?
Here.
Mayor Furlong?
Here, quorum is present. This time, a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. We have 3 presentations. It's nice to see a lot of friendly faces out there. I'd like to welcome everybody into the new year, 2022. And at this time, I'll turn it over to City Manager John Stark, and we'll start the presentations. Or do you want me to do?
Oh, no, thank you, Mayor Furlong. We do have presentations tonight. The first is from the North St. Paul History Cruisers, and they'll be presenting the North St. Paul Police Department, Fire Department, and Veterans Park Committee with a donation. So
If we can get the North St. Paul Veterans Park group or representative to maybe come up to the podium here, and we could make the presentation. I don't know if you want all to come up. You're more than welcome. In the history cruisers. It's funny, I'm seeing people on both sides of history cruisers and Veterans Park, so kind of fun to see. And who's the spokesperson for the? So Bob, if you want to go to the mic there by Pat, that'd be great. And
I'm Bob Vanskenight with the History Cruisers. We want to make a donation to the Veterans Park for $1,000 so they can do whatever they feel they need to do. And Bruce, I guess, is the recipient of that for the moment.
Thank you very much on behalf of the Veterans Park. We appreciate the donation.
Good, glad we can help you. And our second will be to the Fire Department, wherever Jason's at.
if you all stay up here, we'll take a picture when the presentation's all done.
And Jason, for you and your people, we'd like to give $1,000 and you can figure out the best way it should be spent.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep. And Phil, you're next in line. And thank you, Phil, and for all your people and the service that you give us this year. We appreciate all the help.
Thank you very much.
So, Bob, on behalf of the city, the council, the residents, we appreciate all that you do for the city in regards to the car show.
Well, we thank the city. I mean, we had some ups and downs for a while, and the city stayed with us, and hey, it's working. It's working good for the town and all our vendors, and seem to entertain the people pretty good most of the time.
Well, in the last couple of years have been a challenge, not only for us, but for you guys, and I think as a team, I think we really worked good together.
The city worked very well with us, and the police, the fire, everybody in the city, including the maintenance and the whole crew. It took everybody to make this work, and doing with all the culvert and everything else. We made it work, guys.
Yep.
So thank you guys too.
You're welcome. So thank you all. If we could get one group picture, maybe with the council behind them, that'd be great. Is that an iPhone? Okay, we have another presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item on the agenda is a presentation to Alan Worm, who's retiring from the North St. Paul Planning Commission after 14 years of service. I believe the mayor has something for Mr. Worm.
Al, if you want to come up to the... Believe it or not, you were also a founding member of the Solid Waste Commission, I believe?
Yes, I am,
And that was started when?
in the early 80s.
Was it 2000, early 2000, or is it? I can't remember when it was. Yeah, it was a long time ago,
Yeah.
long time ago. But we want to thank you for your time on the Planning Commission. And maybe Elaine, if you don't mind, come on up as chair. Just be a part, just to. We could both read it, or.
Well, I'll watch you read. I'll
Okay.
correct you if you make a mistake.
Okay, there we go. So, Al, the mayor, city council, and planning commission wish to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the leadership and dedication you have provided to the community of North St. Paul as a member of the planning commission from January 1st, 2007 to December of 2021. Thank you for a job well done. Did I do good? Okay. Thank you, Al. Thank you. Oh, we take a quick picture. Like to say a couple words?
Oh, just a couple. I just turned 80 years old. It's time to us old farts to step down now. Get a job to those younger people. Hopefully have business ties. They need a business guy on that committee.
Thank you, Al. And again, it just shows what volunteerism is all about, and just a long-time member of the community. So thank you, Al, and your lovely wife, Norma. You want the box? And a third presentation.
The third item tonight is another presentation to Brian Frandl, who is the Electric Utilities Director, but more importantly, for this purpose, served as the interim city manager since June. I would say, for my part, Brian is the first staff member I met at the city of North St. Paul, and he's been so extremely welcoming and helpful to me. And I don't know that I would have embraced this job, this position in the same way had it not been for Brian and the way he welcomed me into the community. He's been very helpful in the transition. Every single employee I've talked to has told me how vital Brian was to the city during this period of time. And so, he was the city manager for 6 months, and I've been the city manager for 2 days. And so I still have a lot to learn, and I appreciate him helping me in this way. And I know you appreciate him as well. And I think maybe this would be a time for you all to talk about your, that appreciation.
I got a little proclamation for him. So Brian, if you want to come up. Elaine, you want to come up? No, just kidding. So Brian, like the new city manager said, it was an honor to be able to serve with you for the last 6 months. I'm glad you were able to take that role. So I'll read the proclamation here. Honoring Brian Frandl for his dedicated service as interim city manager, whereas Brian Frandl selflessly stepped up to serve his fellow colleagues and the residents of North St. Paul in June of 2021, Whereas Brian Frandl served the city's staff, residents, businesses, and vendors with dedication and professionalism. Whereas Brian Frandl, throughout his interim service as city manager, he also continued to direct the city's electric utility during some major summer projects. Whereas Brian Frandl is a highly respected employee of the city of North St. Paul. Whereas Brian Frandl laid the foundation for John Stark, the new city manager, to assume his new responsibilities. You got a lot to do there, John. So, whereas the North St. Paul City Council extends its gratitude to Brian Frandl for a job well done. Now therefore, I, Terrence J. Furlong, Mayor of North St. Paul, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim on Tuesday, January 4th, Brian Frandl Day in North St. Paul, Minnesota. Woo. Congratulations, Brian. You got any words to say, or?
Speech.
Oh, we gotta hold it. Now, you have anything to say?
Not really, but, no, I appreciate your guys' confidence in allowing me to do this. I really enjoyed it. It was certainly made easy with the great employees we have here at the city. I couldn't say enough about them. From day one, there wasn't anybody that didn't approach me and said, if there's anything you need, please let me know, and I'll help out in any way I can. So, turning over the reins to John, I think he's going to do a good job, and we have a really great crew to bring along and move forward. I think it's been really nice. And I'm
We're gonna
looking forward
find you over at your office now, or are you still gonna, are you gonna hold dual offices, or?
That's where I'll be.
Thank you, Brian.
Much.
Appreciate it. So this time we have the consent agenda, and that is the December 7th, 2021 workshop minutes, the December 7th regular meeting minutes, the December special meeting minutes, general claims of $860,412.78, the HRA claims of $29,842.99, the EDA claims of $270, the City of North St. Paul revised COVID-19 operational policy, the law enforcement phlebotomy program implementation support funding recipient, resolution for the previously approved towards zero death grant agreement. At this time, if anybody, council member, would like to pull an item at this time, they can.
If I may, I would like to pull item H
So we'll pull item H
and item G.
and item D,
G,
E,
goat. G as
H,
in goat?
H and G.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, it's a bit of a formality, but there is a rule that requires the city council to formally accept any donations. I didn't necessarily see it on the consent agenda, so I'm wondering if we want to add accepting the History Cruisers donations that they presented to the city tonight.
Okay. If we could,
Maybe replace G with accepting donations to the fire department and police department.
if we could replace G with donations from the History Cruisers for the police and fire department.
Thank you.
We'll add that to G, and then we'll move H and G, or G and H down to the regular city business and action items. So at this time, motion to approve the consent agenda with adding that donation spot to that.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second?
second by Councilmember Wong. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. This time, the meeting is open to the public, and I do have one, and that is John Schmall. Welcome, John, and it's a new year, 2022, and I would just like to comment that 3 minutes for discussion, and then what's been added to this is that there's no council action or discussion will be held on any items that is addressed.
Oh,
And that's part of what was on there, so that's new on here.
Oh, well.
So, welcome, John.
Okay. Mayor, council. I don't know where I got involved in this, but it must have been responding to some inquiry and asking for information. But for some reason, I got picked to be on the Citizens Advisory Panel, the CAP, for Highway 120. So I'm sure since they had a meeting after that for the governmental representatives, this is probably going to be doubling up of what you already know. But it was interesting to see what the program is for Highway 120. And one of the things that I found to be very interesting is that a statement was made by the consultant. This was run by a consultant. It wasn't run by the DOT. And the statement was made that the usual use of the normal person who uses Highway 120 is for a distance of less than 2 miles. So it's not a main, according to what they think, is a main artery, shall we say. And that given the different things that people have put in that they wanted to see on 120, like sidewalks and bike lanes, and even one of them was for a wheelchair lane. I've not heard of that before. But in getting that kind of information and my idea of what might be but can't be, you know, County 96, if you've ever driven that, wide road, nice road. That's not what's going to happen with 120. And when comments were asked from the people who were attending as the panel members, there wasn't much said, so you know me. And I said that given the information we received, that it looks like it would be a 3-lane roadway from 94 to 694 with 1 lane north, 1 lane south, and a turn lane right down the center. And I was told by the consultant who was running this that we were not there to provide solutions at this time. We were there to learn how solutions would be actually formulated. So nothing was said about the interchange or anything. It was just a nice PowerPoint presentation of which wasn't asking for any information from the participants. So it's, I thought that at least something would come up about the interchange, but absolutely nothing was mentioned. So that was an hour of my time, which I felt wasn't too worthwhile. But we'll see what continues on. I don't know what might be the new process. I said, when are we going to go for a bus ride with everybody that is here to see what is now in place, that you can say, hey, you know, that's a pretty good idea. But there was no feedback on that as to when we got our bus ride. So we'll see what happens. And the other item that I have down on there is the enterprise fund. I want to thank the finance director for his little sheet that he handed out at the last workshop about the fund balances and things. I'd never seen that before, plus the fact that if we didn't, shall we say, repurpose funds, that we'd have a 17% increase in our levy, which is quite interesting. It's the first time in all my times coming up here that the number had been put on how much money we are getting from enterprise funds to run the city. It was very interesting. And as a last item, you don't have to worry about your catalytic converter being stolen if you drive a 20-year-old vehicle. You know, it's these people who want to have a new car that have to worry about that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay. So at this time, we have city business and action items, and I'll turn it over to new city manager, John Stark.
Thank you, Mayor Furlong and city council members. We've got a number of items on city action items tonight. Item A is city council appointments, and that is the appointment of council people to serve as liaisons to various committees and commissions. Just going through the list, it would include Mayor Furlong being appointed as the council representative for the Economic Development Authority and Chair of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Councilmember Scott Thorson shall be appointed as the council representative to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Councilmember Candy Peterson would be appointed as the council representative to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, the North St. Paul Business Association, Metro Cities, Ramsey County League of Local Governments, and as acting mayor. City Council member Tim Cole shall be appointed as the council representative to the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Economic Development Authority, the Silver Lake Improvement Association, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District Board, the Silver Lake Improvement Association, and Valley Branch Watershed District Technical Advisory Committee. And finally, Councilmember Lisa Wong shall be appointed as the council representative to the Planning Commission, the Arts and Culture Commission, and the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. So we would submit that for your consideration.
So the motion is for a resolution approving the city council appointments to commissions and committees for 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? Councilmember Thorson.
Yeah, so new year, same comment as last year. I think that, my position hasn't changed on my belief that we rotate these positions. I think that is more beneficial for us as council members to serve on different commissions and committees. I understand that may not be the stance or viewpoint of the majority of the council, but I'm gonna just explain my viewpoint on that, and I think it's more beneficial to rotate positions, so that's why I plan on not supporting this.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay?
Motion carries. City Manager Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is really annual housekeeping. In January of every year, the city council would select or pass resolutions for relating to the investment committee, the depository bank for city funds and securities, the retainer for the city attorney, the legal newspaper for publications, and the acting mayor. I can certainly, myself or other staff members can address any questions or issues you have on any of these, but as I said, it's really fairly perfunctory kind of housekeeping items.
We'll just go through each one. If there's got any questions, we'll handle at that time. So the first one is the annual resolution appointing investment committee for 2022. That's the first resolution here. Need a motion for that.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong, second by Councilmember Thorson. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The second one is the motion for a resolution designating official and supplemental depositories and depositories for investment purposes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Third one is motion for resolution retaining Campbell Knutson Law Firm as city attorney for 2022.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second, Your Honor.
second by Councilmember Peterson. If the city attorney could leave for a minute.
Yes, yes. I was wondering how long you're going to make me sweat that out.
Yeah. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Next one is the motion for a resolution, annual resolution approving Minneapolis Star Tribune as official newspaper for 2022.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. I believe the last one is a motion for annual resolution appointing acting mayor for 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Turn over to City Manager Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is one that was discussed at tonight's work session. It's related to the vacation carryover for all North St. Paul employees. Due to workforce shortages, and I would add the pandemic, staff wasn't able to take the vacation that they accrued as they would normally have done. And so it is being requested to temporarily pause the vacation accrual provision and allow employees with a surplus of vacation time at the conclusion of 2021 to be able to carry over the entire balance of vacation into 2022, as opposed to the capped number that the code would normally require. The maximum accrual caps shall be reinstated at the conclusion of this year. I would only add that in the work session, I didn't have the information in front of me about what the actual accruals were. For employees here 15 years or less, they can accrue a maximum of 20 days. And employees here 15 years or longer, it's 30 days. But again, we would be asking that that cap be waived for 2022. And I would stand for any questions you might have.
Okay, we did have this good discussion in the workshop in regards to this. Any discussion? Any questions for City Manager? If not, the motion is for a resolution approving pause on employee manual policy regarding vacation accrual.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second it.
second by Councilmember Peterson. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. City Manager Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this item was discussed at tonight's work session. The staff report talks a little bit about the waiving of the holiday hours, which just happened in this prior thing, so we're going to just pass that. But the issue really for this item is what's known as suspense hours for police officers. So the pandemic and staffing crisis in North St. Paul created an overage of suspense hours in the accrual banks. This is a fairly complicated hour-keeping system because of the way the police officers work in shifts differently than many of us work kind of normal 5-day-a-week jobs. In a typical year, suspense hours will even out over the year due to the unique 24-hour-a-day, 365-day-a-year schedule of police officers and the demand that's been placed on them. They have exceeded in many cases, the suspense hours that they would normally accrue. And we are asking, similarly to the vacation accruals, that be waived going into 2022. Chief Babenroth is here, I believe. He may be able to provide additional context to you beyond what I can tell you.
Welcome, Chief. I know we talked about this in the workshop. Maybe just give a little background for the public to understand why we're doing this. because 2021 was an unusual year for us and for our police officers.
Sure, glad to. Yeah, basically it's a pandemic and then injuries, and it created a lot of holes in our staffing schedule, which then didn't allow people to take the normal time off away from work. It was a constant request from me and the other sergeants in our police department asking officers for extra time. And they gladly and thankfully, for the safety of the city, stepped up and filled in whenever we asked them to. And that's where we are in this situation of in excess of suspense time. So I think it is the right thing to do to pay them out for those, because suspense time is basically, if they're in excess, that's extra time that they've worked in a patrol car. So it's not, a bank that's just given to them. If there's an excess, that is more hours that they gave to the city working on patrol. So we hope to not be in this situation again at the end of this year, but with the pandemic, we really can't say that for sure. But I think with proper staffing levels, we'll be in a better place at the end of this year.
Never certainty in anything right now, so.
Unfortunately.
Right. Thank you for that. So the motion is for a resolution to approve payout on police officer holiday and suspense hours remaining at the end of 2021. Is there a motion? Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I appreciate all what you do and your officers do.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
City Manager Stark. We need to get more microphones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we are now at the items that were pulled from the consent.
Hold on one second. There was another resolution in item D for the 622 contract reimbursement, looked like.
Thank you for catching
Yeah,
that.
resolution authorizing a budget amendment to the police department's 2022 budget, and that was discussed in the workshop as well.
It's the newbie for City Manager, being the new guy.
Yeah, sorry, that was a
Thank you,
late,
Councilmember
it was a
Thorson.
late addition to the packet. So thank you
All right.
for that.
So yes, we do have a motion for a resolution authorizing a budget amendment to the Police Department's 2022 budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson. Second by Councilmember Peterson. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then, so we're moving items G and H. And the first one will be the City of North St. Paul revised COVID-19 operational policy. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Wong in regards to her question.
Thank you. I'm interested to hear, what changes were made. I can see them, but for the public's purpose, I would like for us to maybe discuss that a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, Councilmember Wong. I might ask Finance Director Dan Winnick, I believe Dan played a role in preparing the staff report, if he could highlight some of the changes that were made from the prior COVID policy that the City Council had approved.
Mayor, council members, really the only change that was made to the policy that was adopted last year was that on December 27th of 2021, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention updated and shortened their recommended isolation and quarantine period for the general population. So on the policy itself, and in your packet, it would begin on page 52. And it starts, if you test positive for COVID-19, to isolate. So it's really a reduction to 5 days of isolation. And they really are taking into consideration the differences between vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals and the importance of a booster. You can see in how it's been written from the CDC that those are being emphasized in kind of the duration on how an individual should be treated. And so it'll explain how employees need to be relate to if they test positive for COVID, if they're exposed to somebody for COVID, if they develop symptoms and so forth. The rest of the policy all stays in place. It's really just reducing the duration in which you need to isolate yourself.
Thank you. In light of the situation and what we're talking about is staffing shortages, I just have some concerns that we don't have a masking policy, given we have had issues with staff being out for COVID. I know that it is difficult to wear a mask all day, but I believe that with 6,800 cases in most of them in the metro area, that we are looking at a peak here in January. So I would like to consider us using masks, at least in the temporary, as we approach the peak, which is supposed to be at the end of January.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could just speak to a couple of things.
I was going to say, how do we handle that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with how new I am to the position, I haven't yet even met with all the department directors to talk about the various COVID provisions. I believe that the way we've been handling it is really on a situational basis in terms of masking for employees. Our public works facility, there was a recent higher incidence of COVID infection, and so they have implemented a mask policy at that facility. The thinking to date has been, again, that it be situational if there was a spike in any one area of city operations, that it would be dealt with that way. I am open to suggestions. I'm open to your input on what the ideal masking policy would be. This is obviously an issue that there are varied opinions on. My personal philosophy is a couple of things. You know, I do like to follow the CDC and the Minnesota Department of Health, and I also like to be respectful of people's needs. And I would like to find a way to make sure that we are able to do both of those things as a staff. So again, I'd be open to suggestions.
what we did at the bank just started this week was mandatory mask for all employees for the next 2 weeks to get over this kind of the peak is what we're seeing right now. So that's what we've done at our business. And I guess I would rather leave it up to you, because you're the one that sees all the employees. Any other suggestions, beyond that? That's what I can offer is, we mandated it because there are outbreaks within our business. So we're, taking care of that hopefully by doing the mask policy for at least a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Thorson?
Yeah, my position hasn't changed. I don't believe in mandates. I think this is a decision that should be left up to the individual and consulting with their physician. I don't think we as a city should be taking any stance for or against medical-related things. That information should be dealt with at an individual level with their physician. So the idea of requiring a mask mandate for me, I'm not going to support at all, although I will acknowledge the concerns about, employees being out with being sick. Instituting a mask mandate could also have a similar negative consequence where employees who feel their rights are being violated decide not to come into work or seek employment elsewhere. So, this is a difficult decision, or, it's a complicated topic, but I think it's best that we leave it up to department heads and employees to figure out what works best for them. So a mandate is something that I'm not going to support at all.
Could I just pause the council discussion for a second and check something with the city attorney? So my thinking is that in terms of requiring employees to wear masks, that would be a city manager decision. But if the council were to make a decision that city facilities to the public and/or employees would be, mask would be required, that would be a council decision. Does that sound right to you?
That is how we've handled it in the past, yes.
And I think it's, and I'm just speaking on personal, what we're dealing with at the bank, is that there is not a mask mandate right now out there. So to have the public come in, it's harder to mandate that policy. But I think as an employee or employer, we're able to mandate our employees just for, may not even be a mandate, it's suggestion or whatever. It's, whatever people feel comfortable with, but having some sort of policy that we would recommend having a mask, within the next 3 weeks or whatever. That's just my own point of view.
Yeah, I suppose I'm just looking at this from a preventative standpoint rather than a reactionary. And, we can react to outbreaks, which is helpful in reducing the spread. However, we're still out people in that regard. So that would be my big concern.
Anybody else?
Well, I would say, as the city manager, I'm obviously going to be taking your comments under advisement. I'm going to be maybe doing a little bit more research tonight and tomorrow morning into the timing of the next couple of weeks. If you have any specific information on the timing, if you could let me know that would be helpful. I think it would be helpful for city staff to hear something from me on my thoughts on masks. And so I will get something out to city employees in the next couple of days with some, I would say, I don't want to box myself in. My initial feeling would be with some suggestions or recommendations from the city manager. I've seen it in other places. I know you have too. I don't, being the mask police doesn't really help anybody, and it doesn't accomplish the objective. But to let people know what my desires and hopes would be, I think would be helpful for them to hear.
My only comments are I am comfortable with the way that the policy is currently written. I do definitely applaud the fact that the city manager can make the decisions going forward should something happen, and I would fully support any decision that you would make from a mask standpoint if it were needed. But I think just the wording, the way the policy is now, I'm comfortable with, as long as you've got the flexibility to change that.
Anybody else? Not, the motion is for a resolution approving a revised COVID-19 operational policy.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And then the next item is item H, which is, I'm going to say it again, law enforcement phlebotomy program implementation support funding recipient. And I'll turn over to Councilmember Wong. I see lobotomy, and it scares me. I'll turn to Councilmember Wong.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank you, Chief, for working so hard as you've just jumped right in. I know that you're supporting the officers and you're diligently looking for funding. And we've had a great discussion and workshop. So
Thank you.
I do have some questions in regards to the law enforcement phlebotomy program. I'm a little unclear on what the policy is in which this program would be implemented under.
Sure. So we have a policy that goes along with it, prepared to adopt this program. So basically, it's a National Highway Traffic Safety pot of money that we were approved for to implement this phlebotomy program, which is we're able to use to spend on training and anything that this program needs to take off. So the amount is $40,000 that we have been awarded based on a grant application that we received. So we're going to send an officer to become a phlebotomist, which is then going to prevent the need, if we're ever in the scenario of we suspect a driver for driving under the influence that is something other than alcohol, we're able to test them at our police department with a warrant in place to complete a blood draw versus sending that officer with this person that has been placed under arrest for their driving conduct down to Regents or St. John's to spend countless hours waiting, likely now, and the constant constraints going on at every single hospital for hours on end for a nurse to perform the same blood draw to show what this person has in their blood, which is likely some kind of drug which is impairing their driving. So at the end of the day, it's going to reduce overtime that we're not going to spend to pay an officer to sit and wait in a waiting room at a hospital. It's going to give our officer an opportunity to get this training, because with it comes, I don't know what the number is, 50 to 100 live blood draws, and then we become a countywide asset. I mean, we hear on the radio quite a bit, just, hey, does anybody have a phlebotomist on? And now we're able to say yes, and we can go spend 10 minutes driving over to Maplewood or whatever agency is asking for help to complete a blood draw for whatever incident that they're in, versus them spending the same amount of time driving down to a hospital, waiting for hours to process the arrest. That's kind of the whole concept in a short summary.
So in terms of like the criteria, like I'm trying to imagine this happening and so someone's pulled over suspected of, driving under the influence. How do you determine if it's, do you use breathalyzers, or what are some of the tools that you're using right now?
Sure, so if they smell alcohol, they're going to use a breathalyzer. If they don't smell alcohol and the driving conduct is so bad where they believe that they're under or looking at their eyes and their pupils are dilated or constricted, they're going to use whatever information that they have to make the assessment if this person is intoxicated. Blood draw comes into place when alcohol is not suspected, and it's all done through a search warrant to have a blood draw completed. So they're not just going to go out arresting people and sticking needles in their arms to take their blood. It's authorized by a judge through a warrant to complete the blood draw.
Do you suspect that there would be some hesitation from the public to see this program occurring?
Would the public hesitate? No, not. No, I think it's in the public's best interest to get people who are crashing vehicles and driving terribly off the road. I think in the past 2 years, really, since the pandemic started, we're seeing a huge increase in awful driving and accidents and injuries and deaths because of that on our streets. So this is a program that's going to help reduce those fatalities and injuries and accidents on our roads.
If I could add, and maybe this helps clarify, I don't believe that the process is necessarily changing. I think under the current process, a person who is suspected of being under the influence in this way, a warrant would be sought, and they would be then transported to an off-site facility to have this work done. The only change that this program would have is not whether the phlebotomy occurs, it's where it occurs and who administers it. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's us doing it versus somebody at the hospital, basically. So yeah, that's absolutely right. There's no process change. It's just who's doing the blood draw.
Correct, okay. And I just have some concerns in terms of, you know, I think some of the public may be hesitant to know that that is occurring, that that's part of the work of police officers. I say that because of what has happened in the last couple years, and we all know that there is trust that needs to be built. And I'm concerned that this program may dissolve some of that trust with some of our public.
You know, I appreciate your concern. I would absolutely disagree that I don't think anyone's going to object to a process that is in place for somebody suspected of driving intoxicated or under the influence of something. When you get a license in Minnesota or any other state, there's implied consent laws. So that means a licensed driver has consented to their blood alcohol concentration or drug testing when they're driving just by virtue of having a license. So that's nothing new. That's just, that happens. So if somebody's refusing that breath or urine, the blood draw is an option. And that's a part of your, when you check the box, when you get a license, that's the implied consent. So this is an option to gauge whether someone is under the influence and they can be safely operating on our roadways in our city or all around the state, really. So it's not, this has been done. This is not a new thing. There's tons of other agencies that already do this. They have a phlebotomist on staff. The county has several. I'm not sure if Maplewood has any or not, but this program is funding our ability to do something that's already authorized and a part of detecting whether somebody's under the influence of drugs.
In terms of the $40,000, I see that the salary in overtime is not included in that. It's mostly for items and you know, syringes and all of that. Is this only a one-time funding opportunity?
Yeah, the grant, so we have to spend everything by the end of September. I have a whole list of everything that we're planning on buying. One of them is going to be it's a narcotics analyzer. Basically, it's going to allow this device to, a lot of times when there's an arrest made, we're searching the vehicles and occasionally finding drugs. There's unfortunately a lot of incidents throughout the country where an officer finds a bag of drugs in a car and they take the bag and then they're breathing in the contents of that bag to the point of passing out or overdosing because it's a bag of fentanyl or something terrible that is then impacting the officers. So this device, one of the budget items that we're planning on getting, would allow us to just hold the device up to the bag. You don't have to touch the bag at all. It tells you what drug is inside the bag, therefore increasing the safety of any officer that's searching a vehicle, so they don't have to physically touch whatever suspected drug is that they find in a vehicle. And the other ones are all based on training and equipment of, there's a chair, tape, everything else is directly related to the actual process of bringing this program.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I just think it's another layer of protection. I think it's good. I'm a big advocate of public safety, as all we are. I think it's just, hopefully, it'll be good, and it'll just be more like protection out there for people that are just driving around, and safety factor. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Councilmember Thorson.
Yeah, so I mean, this is something, to me, it sounds like it's a no-brainer. I mean, the example you used of how typically how this would work is, an officer would be taken off our streets for potentially an hour or longer to go to have this process administered down at a hospital. And I think, as you've pointed out earlier in our workshop, a question was asked, what's the most type of calls the police department is responding to? And your response was medical calls. And I think this is just a product of seeing how things change, roles change. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. If you were on the fire department, you were issued a turncoat and boots, and we drove around on the back of the fire truck, and we basically just put out fires, and responding to medical calls were not a part of it. Now that's completely different. And we've had discussion in the past about, or at least I've inquired about potentially looking at the police department getting more involved in EMS calls and potentially looking at additional training beyond their first responder, like EMT or paramedic. So although I understand Councilmember Wong's concerns about, is this something that we should be concerned about? The public is now, you can get your blood drawn by a police officer. I think maybe that, it's just a matter of communicating and explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it. I think we've done that here tonight, and we can continue to do that. But to me, it seems to make sense, and I'm grateful that there was a grant opportunity and we were able to apply for that and get it. And so I applaud you and thank you for doing that, and look forward to implementing this policy.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
So the motion is resolution authorizing law enforcement phlebotomy program implementation support.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries. And at this time, we have, I think that's it. Unless there's anything from the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, as I said, today's my second day on the job. I'm going to be meeting with all of you in the next week and talking about my thoughts for the first 3 months as your city manager. I'll give you a sneak preview, though. It is really focused on listening and learning. Is really where I want to put my efforts in the first 3 months. And we'll be talking about what you can teach me, what I can learn, and we'll move from there.
Well, usually he brings coffee and, donuts to us during our council meetings, so we'll.
I do bring coffee to meetings.
And pizza at the end of
And
workshops.
pizzas, yeah, perfect. No, thank you and welcome, and we welcome you to our meetings and being our new city manager. So thank you.
Yeah, and
We look forward to it.
the mechanics of how city council meetings operate vary widely from city to city, so it's going to take me a little bit of time to get into the rhythm here. So I appreciate any patience you can give me.
Good. Yeah, no, that's good. All right, so from there, we go to our reports from council, commission, and committees, and I'll start it with Councilmember Cole.
All right. Park and Rec had a special December meeting primarily designed to review the park improvement plan. The goal was to really go through and make sure that the content is the way that it was intended to be. If they happen to stumble across a misspelled word, a punctuation, we attempted to correct that along the way as well, but that wasn't necessarily the primary purpose. The secondary goal was to have been able to have this completed so that it would be ready for the Planning Commission meeting on the 7th, for the Planning Commission to review, make recommendations to where they felt it should be, to make sure it's in compliance with everything else that the city, all the guidelines that the city has laid out. Once that's done, it'll go back to the PNR for this month's meeting to review the comments made by the Planning Commission, make any addendums or corrections that they want to adopt, and then it'll go back to WSB for final prettying up, per se. Have them go back through and scrub it for spelling errors and punctuation and bolding and unbolding, et cetera, with the hopes and goals to be able to present to council by February-ish, probably the second meeting in February, but whenever we can find room to get it on the workshop. They're excited. This has been a long, drawn-out process. It's we're at least a year into this thing, if not longer. So they're excited. They're excited to get things going back in the parks and make sure that the long-term plan matches up with the city's long-term strategies and be able to move forward. Next EDA meeting is Tuesday the 11th at 3 o'clock here in the Sandberg room, I'm assuming, not in the council room, so in the Sandberg room. So other than that, that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Wong?
As you can see, Alan Worm has left the building. But he has also left the Planning Commission, as you saw his presentation today, so I want to thank him for his time with us. We have a next meeting on Thursday for the Planning Commission, as Tim Cole has discussed. We will also be looking at the design of seating in the downtown area in this next meeting as well, and have some discussion around that. As for the Arts and Culture Commission, they're still working through some of the bylaws, and they're finalizing that up. And our next meeting is January 19th, I believe. The EDA and the redevelopment master plan, I'll defer to Scott Thorson to report on that. And I think that's just about everything. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
It's, the 19th Avenue Student House building, house is going well. The cold weather is not their friend. They were off for break, but it's really awesome. I got to look at it, got inside, and there'll be a roof on there pretty quick, I think, and the electric's in. Is that right, Ron? Gas, okay. So they're making strides, and they're really an ambitious group, because it was cold today. It's going to get colder. And the NSP Business Association luncheon will be next Tuesday, the 11th, at noon at the Legion. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Thorson.
And I will have to apologize because I was not able to attend the meeting on the 27th, so I don't know if you were there, Lisa, or not, but
Yeah, I was
I'll have to
actually,
kick
yeah.
it back to you then if you want to give any updates.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thanks. My bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I think we're still kind of discussing the parameters and the guidelines and the direction. We are taking note of the sensitivity of including our business community in that process as well. So we are just chugging along and just trying to identify the parameters of the redevelopment master plan.
And it looks like the next meeting is on the January 31st. This is the last Monday of the month, correct? At 6:30 here at City Hall, I believe, is the schedule, so.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Is Morgan available to talk?
am, if you can hear me and/or see me, Mr. Mayor.
I can hear you, so I just want to mention the meeting that we had with the Highway 36 group, and that was with the officials, county commissioners, mayors, and all pertaining parties from 94 all the way up to 694. And I know you've been kind of our liaison for the city in the background, and these meetings are kind of moving along. And what we actually, Councilmember Peterson was also on that meeting. It was a Zoom meeting, and we talked about, like you said, on 120, which is from 94 to 694. So you're looking at a pretty extensive area. But I think what came down to was more of a discussion in regards to 120 on Century Avenue, of working with the counties, both county commissioners, and with the mayors of both cities, and moving that ahead for more discussion. I think the biggest discussion that is kind of work out is the funding of it. We talked about the funding possibly coming from the federal government and also local government. I think they mentioned about 12 different areas that we could actually get the funding from, but they did not mention all those areas. But it sounded like it'd be an accumulation of a lot of different areas that the money would come from. So from that, I don't know, Morgan, if you can add anything to that from the meeting?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so that was a really good synopsis of the local officials meeting, and behind the scenes, from a staff perspective, there has been if you want to call it, a technical advisory committee that is made up of city engineers, MnDOT engineers. There's some MnDOT consultants that are helping to run this whole process. And basically, for the benefit of the council and any public that is watching or following along, we heard Mr. Schmall's comment at the start of the meeting, and he was involved in another aspect of this process, which is kind of a citizens advisory group. All of this is rolling together in what is being conducted by MnDOT on the 120 corridor. As you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, it's a large section of roadway that they're studying or looking at. But this study is basically the very first step in evaluating environmental impacts, social impacts, economic impacts of implementing the needs, both transportation and multimodal and stormwater related, all of the different needs that go into what will ultimately be a re-envisioning of 120. Now, this may be decades off in terms of what might happen ultimately through the whole corridor, but there are certain highlighted areas within the corridor that are of focus. I know John mentioned that he didn't hear anything on the interchange in his meeting, but I can represent that it has been heavily discussed during the technical advisory meetings. I think it got some conversation at the local officials meeting. And so that the interchange or proposed interchange at 120 and 36 is certainly an area of focus. And my takeaway at the local officials, which I thought was very encouraging, is that there was a strong show of unity, if you will. Multiple cities, multiple counties, county officials, elected officials, all kind of talking in unison in terms of the importance to move things forward, to keep momentum going, to keep working together in a collaborative fashion, and to try to take advantage of some of the transportation funding opportunities, as the mayor mentioned, that are out there that will be coming. And so, I think that there will be more conversations. This study is just one small part of it to help get some of those early environmental impact things out of the way so that could be used to help inform and move things forward once we get into a funding or preliminary design scenario, which we haven't yet gotten to. But we're certainly much closer right now than we ever have been before in terms of getting everybody on the same page, getting the public informed, getting all the different local agencies and the state agencies and Met Council informed as to the needs on the corridor. And so there's certainly going to be more to come, which as things develop, as MnDOT finishes their study, I'm sure that will be communicated back to all the cities and the counties as well. So more to come, certainly.
Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate that. So yeah, it was a very good meeting, I thought, as Morgan said, in regards to everyone's supportive of it, not only the mayors and the county commissioners, but also our state legislator and state senator. So that's very positive. With that, that's all I have. General business, Councilmember Cole.
General business, I don't have a whole lot. I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. We're off to a fantastic start. Meeting was short and sweet. The earlier meeting, the workshop was short and sweet. And tonight we're going to probably get out of here before 8 o'clock. So we're off to a great start. I want to just take a couple seconds. Just John, welcome. Welcome to the family per se. Tomorrow's what, day 3? So no more new guy. New guy is day 1 and 2, man. It's over. Otherwise, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to Lisa Ritchie for all of her dedication to the Park and Rec for the last 6 months. Lisa has helped step in and basically took on dang near every commission I think there was. There's staff is increasing effective Monday. So Jill Officer will take over as the staff liaison for the Park and Rec. So we welcome her and we're excited. But just a heartfelt thanks to Lisa for everything that she's done, and just a huge thank you to Carrie as well for all the efforts that she's put forth in everything that the city touches. But she's handled a lot of the nice emails from me regarding Casey Lake and keeping it moving forward as well. So a lot of work has been done behind the scenes that necessarily aren't recognized by everyone, and I just wanted to thank you for that as well. That's it for me.
Good. Thank you. Councilmember Wong?
Yeah, I have one update in regards to the community center. We are still working on that lease agreement, and hopefully we'll have it in the next meeting or two. Again, Happy New Year. Looking forward to this year, and welcome, John.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, I just wanted to do another shout out to Rachel Thompson. The project Christmas Tree was a huge success. We had 24 families that were facilitated, and I saw a lot of happy faces on the moms and dads that they could provide a great Christmas for their children. And grandmas were there, and sometimes grandmas are raising the kids too. So it was really heartfelt, and I give her it was a lot of work that goes into it, and it was pretty much done by her. She did all the soliciting and, got the things, and, I kind of I put things in bags. She wraps everything. So she wraps things very pretty. She had a couple little elves to help her, but it was really well done. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Thorson?
Well, unfortunately, I have about 3 hours of things that I was just planning on discussing. And lots of questions for the new city manager. I got a lot of questions for our attorney, so I think we're going to be here. No, just kidding, obviously. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy Brian Frandl Day to everyone. Yeah. Thank you again for filling in. And just wanted to point out one thing quickly. Unfortunately, some residents were not able to celebrate Christmas and waking up to a sewer backup that had happened in my neighborhood. Actually, 2 residents, and one resident, it had happened. This is the 6th time it's happened. And I know they've reached out, and one resident shared quite a bit of information with council. Staff has been in contact and working with her, and she's been very pleased and happy with the work that staff has done to resolve that issue, but I think what's going to come of this is that we're going to have to revisit our capital improvement plan, and this has happened in an area that we originally had slated for reconstruction, full reconstruction in 2020, and it got pushed off because of the downtown project. And obviously, as we move through this long process, we're going to have these things come up, and I think this is something we seriously need to reconsider and focus on, because, it's bad enough that this happens once, especially on Christmas Day, but to happen 6 times, it needs to be addressed, and I think we really need to look at, rescheduling. I know for 2022, we've already got the ball rolling and things moving on. I'm not proposing that we put a stop to that. And and this is a large financial undertaking too, so we can't just say, oh, and now we're going to do this too and pick it back up where we left off. But I would just like to stress to the council the importance of revisiting that, focusing on that area again. And, there's times where I question some of the things we get involved with, and I bring up the fact that we should be focusing on our core essential services. Some of that is preventative maintenance in this aspect of, what can we do to prevent things like this? Well, you do sewer cameraing and jetting, and, we've got limited staff already on top of that who can perform that. So when we get into things that maybe we can do, we should be asking ourselves, well, should we? Because there's an opportunity cost that we're giving up here. And here's a clean example of that. Driving into work, I saw there's a large water main break on 17th. It's just another example of some things that maybe in the past we've neglected to maybe focus more attention on preventative maintenance. So just wanted to bring that up, and I'm sure we'll have continued discussion on that in the future. So.
Thank you. And I have a couple items here. One is I got a thank you note from Mark Casey, who did the selection committee. Dear Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to assist in the search of your new city manager. It was such a pleasure to work with all of you and your wonderful staff. The North St. Paul community is so fortunate to have folks like you that truly care. Thanks again, Mark. So it's a nice thank you from Mark. And I want to say thank you also for our process and our selection of our new city manager, John Stark. We look forward to working with you in 2022. 2022 is going to be a better year. If we get this, hopefully we're moving ahead in the right direction here, and it should be a good year, and I hope you enjoy your time here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I don't like to make promises that I don't feel like I can keep. I promise you, for the North St. Paul staff, 2022 will be a better year.
Great. Thank you. With that said, what we normally would like to do is schedule a retreat with the council and with the city manager, new city manager, and I think we'd like to do that sooner than later, so maybe sometime in January, maybe early February, schedule that. And it's typically a few hours long. So I don't know if you want to look at your calendars right now or wait till the next meeting to look, but I guess I would like to look at we've done it on a Saturday before, Saturday morning, like from 8 till noon. We've done that in the past. I think we've done it on a Thursday night. I'm open on a Saturday now. I don't have the liquor store, so I'm pretty open on my Saturdays. So if that works for everybody, like 8 till noon and have a hard stop at noon or earlier, if it goes, may not take 4 hours. It might take 6 hours with the new city manager. No, I'm just kidding. Would February 12th work?
Mr. Mayor, I think I'd already informed you I'm unavailable
On that,
kind
okay.
of mid-February, from the 12th to the 20th, I'm unavailable.
Okay. February 5th? On the 5th? The 5th?
I'm gonna go Friday, so I could miss that,
Okay.
if that works out.
February 5th?
I've got a commitment from 9 to 10 if we want to start later,
Go to 10 to 2?
or 10:30. I gotta get here, so. Otherwise, January 15th, I mean, if we want to hammer it out in a week.
My 15th is open. January 15th is open for me.
I would just want to make sure that we're all on the same page on what we're trying to accomplish at the retreat. If we think we
It's-
can,
Kind of too early. I think the 15th is too early.
it
because
feels too early to me.
Yep. January 27th is a Thursday. If we did like from 5 o'clock to 8 or 9, just say 9, and January 27th. We'll do January 27th. Is 5 o'clock, can we do earlier? 4:30, or is 5 o'clock?
I can make, at this point, I can make 4:30 work.
4:30? 4:30? We'll do 4:30 on January 27th. And that'll give us enough time. You have the interviews with all of us and maybe work with Soren. I don't know if we want you to be a part of that work session or not. 27th. That works for you. So maybe as part of the meeting, we could have have Soren as the start of the meeting and go over some cleaning items or whatever that we need to do for the year. We've talked about that before, talking about open meeting law and all that, just a recap. And have you maybe for an hour, Soren? Okay. So January 27th at 4:30, and it'll be a council retreat, and that'll have to be posted. I think that's all I have, and I just want to wish everybody, hope everybody had a nice holiday and Happy New Year, and I look forward to 2022. So motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.